We're going to get recording. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our town hall. It is May 21st, 2023. Christy and I just got back from Rhode Island. Took a 5 a.m. flight this morning, so it has been a wonderful and long day. So I've got 3 or 4 things that I want to cover. So 3 things specifically, and then a little recap of what we got at Rhode Island, as well as if you guys have any specific questions about the program, the structure, why we do things a particular way, what should you be focusing in on, anything like that, you can type them in the chat. So I do have everybody muted at this point, just in case somebody joins in and forgets to mute themselves. There's always that background noise. So we've got everybody muted at the moment. But if you do have a question or you think of a question while we're here, you can just hit the chat button and type it in there for us. So what we did, let's see, we had our call with Ofer again on Thursday. So again, we spent a lot of time talking about the future, what we can be doing to help the kids to develop and be prepared for it. So naturally, there's a lot of time talking about AI and spending our time with what is happening with our AI. So there's basically going to be a fork in the road as it continues to develop. There's going to be the one side, which was what we potentially grew up with, the Terminator mode. And that's where the AI is going to take over the world and it's going to destroy us all and it's going to ruin the planet. And then there's the other side of it, which is it's going to become a great tool and it's going to help us be able to create things that we were never able to create before and be able to find solutions to things that we've never thought of before as well. So we don't know which side is going to dominate. So that's why, again, with Ofer, we talk about both sides and develop a process of what to do. So what we spent our time on Thursday was talking about trying to be strong, trying to be strong as humans where AI is weak. So if you try to compete with AI on an intelligence level, it's not going to happen. It's going to absolutely wipe us out. For example, what was it? If I remember correctly, ChatGPT graduated college in like 6 months or 3 months. So it was able to learn all of the subjects, all of the content, and get 100% on everything it did, because that's exactly what it's for. It's for that speed and knowledge. So what we want to be able to do is find those areas where AI isn't strong and then have the kids develop their skills and techniques of what they want to do for a future in those areas. What exactly that is, well, that's going to be kind of the fun part, and we're not sure. But what we spent a lot of time discussing and playing with was trying to figure out. So for example, right now, today, AI can be empathetic, but it's not its strong suit. So basically being, interactive with another human being, you're going to get a lot more empathy from a person than you are from AI. That's going to start to change as robotics and, home robots and all that fancy stuff that's coming down the pipe starts to develop. But right now, today, that would be one thing. Creativity. AI can't create. So what's going to happen if you believe in the creative path is we're going to be able to use AI to be able to do things, again, that we're not able today. Let's see. An example might be number one, you're going to start seeing a blending of fields. So, for example, somebody that wants to be a chemist, Ms. Shirikuvada, one of our instructors, wants to go into the field of chemistry. So instead of doing a chemist, right now you even heard of things like biochemistry. So they're already combining those fields. Well, let's say, for example, Donovan, our little Donovan, loves dinosaurs. So at that point, it might be a paleontology, chemistry, bio. You just start to see these fields continue to blend and create new creative fields. So while AI is going to wipe out jobs in the low end market, things that are menial tasks that don't require a lot of thinking, it's just basically straightforward work, those are going to disappear. But a lot of new areas that have never existed before definitely are going to start to develop. So that's where we spent probably a good 45 minutes discussing with Ofer, and so definitely got out of that. One of the things, let's see, what do we have? Are you spending, so topic number 2, are you spending 20 minutes a day uninterrupted of playtime with your child? and playtime is open to whatever definition you want. What we're discussing with Mr. Horton is how that basically, by doing that, ignites your child's limbic system, which is their growth and their development. So you want to be able to do your best to try to spend 20 minutes every single day doing some form of play with them. And that's one-on-one. The phone is put down. The computer, laptop is closed, right? TVs are off. Actually interacting and playing with your child. One of the best ways that we've started to do that, or talked about it with a lot of the parents, is let your child create a game. Let's play a game. What are the rules? You tell me. What are we going to do? And just let them create. And there is no, right? There is no, I'm not going to do that. Just have fun with it. And by doing that, you're deepening the bond. But again, going back to the topic, you're activating their limbic system, which is going to help them develop, grow, and do lots of cool things that way. So we can spend some specifics on that if you guys want any more about that. Where I wanted to spend our third and final time was the decision making. Ooh, we talked about decision making. So instead of in the old days, there was the Benjamin Franklin method. And that is basically, you take a piece of paper, you draw a line down the middle. What are the bonuses or pros, and what are the minuses or cons? And you just start writing them out. Whichever side has more is basically the choice you're supposed to make. Well, Ofer has taken that and flipped it on its head, and then reversed it sideways, and then diagonally, and then the other diagonally. That's how we do things with Ofer. And he just teaches us how to think in all kinds of different ways. So what he does is, it's called the gain-loss model. And this is great for us as adults to use. And it's even better when you start applying it with your kids. We had a great conversation with Mrs. Force, who's one of the instructors in Rhode Island. And she talked about how her parents used this on her growing up, the Socratic method. So we'll talk a little bit about that process. But the gain-loss model is basically 4 questions instead of 2. The Benjamin Franklin was pros, cons. The gain-loss model becomes, what will you gain if you do this? What will you lose if you do this? And then flip the question. What will you gain by not doing this? And what will you lose by not doing this? So by adding the second tier of questions, you get a much deeper thinking process, and it teaches the kids to start learning about opposites. And by learning about opposites, this trains their brain to see patterns and things in a better way. So in that process, and the whole method is, you ask your child these questions and you don't give them the answers, right? Well, can I go to my friend's house tonight? I don't know. Do you think it's a good idea? And they have to answer that question. And if it takes, the first couple times, they're going to struggle because you've never done this with them before. So it's a great place to start with ourselves when you come up with a decision you need to make, by thinking of a process and decision you need to make. Okay, what am I going to gain by doing this, right? We went to Rhode Island this weekend. What am I going to gain by going to Rhode Island, right? Well, I get to spend the weekend in Mr. Horton's program, immersed in it, seeing it firsthand. So that's going to make me a better instructor. Well, what am I going to lose by going to Rhode Island? Well, I had to shut the school down, so I wasn't able to teach classes. Right? I had to put Yuki into boarding, so I wasn't able to spend time with her. So there would be some basic things that I lost by giving my time to going to Rhode Island. And then you would flip it. Well, what am I going to gain by not going? Well, by not going, I would be able to teach classes and have private lessons. And then maybe have had a birthday party on Saturday, maybe signed up some new members, taken Yuki for several walks. Right? Well, what am I going to lose by not going? Well, I'm not going to be as good of an instructor because I'm not going to see firsthand all of the things that they're doing that I've missed out on since the last time I went, which is about 6 months ago. See, it's a much deeper process on now, what should I do, right? So to me, no brainer, go to Rhode Island, become a better instructor, be able to bring the stuff back and do that process. So when you start asking your kids this, then again, like I said, they're going to struggle because you haven't really thought about it, or they haven't thought about it, or this new process. But if you stick with it, by the time they're teenagers, they're really going to get it. All right. So that's another thing. We spent hours with Mr. Horton on Friday. And again, we just talked to child development, influence, Socratic method, the gain lose model, and just everything, just free flow. So thoughts are flying left and right, hours and hours. So we talked about the general process of you have maximum influence over your child until the age of 7. Then it starts to decline until by the age of 15, you only have about 6% influence. So again, what we think about is the old model. Well, I've got till the age of 18 to help my kid. Nope. Right? Well, I've got until 13. Right? Once they hit those teenage years, we know their habits and their mindset are pretty much locked. And whoever they've become, that's pretty much that's the path they're going to take. It's really difficult to jump track and change your mindset or your patterns once the kids are 13. Nope. You have until 7. So that's why with the little dragons right now at 4, 5, and 6, we absolutely love that process because we've got the most time to spend with them. The kids that are 11 and 12, red flag. We've got 1, maybe 2 years before things start to cement and lock in. And so we want to really be able to maximize the impact we can have with them. And so we want to be able to get this gain lose model. We want to get the yes, I can attitude. We want to get the discipline habits. We want to get the respect process in. So those are all things that we really see. Not at 18, they've got to be locked before 13, right? Now, again, it's not, okay, they've had their 13th birthday. Well, all hope is gone if they haven't developed it. The idea is that's a general process, right? So it's a guideline. It's not an automatic, but the sooner we get started, the better chance that we have of getting those skills developed and working on that point. So again, if you've just joined us, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat. Christy is with us now, and so she'll be monitoring that as well. And we'll be fielding those questions towards the end. So the last thing I had for you was the Freedom Day, which ties into what we were just talking about. And so again, we spent a lot of time with Mr. Horton talking about Freedom Day. Freedom Day is, again, roughly, your child is turning 18 and they're about to go off into the world, right? So as they go off into the world, what skills do you want to make sure they have in order to that they're going to be successful, they're going to be happy, and most importantly, you're going to not really worry about them. We're parents. You're going to worry about them to some degree, but obviously, right? We spent talking time again about going to college. How many kids go to college completely unprepared? They've never done a load of laundry, right? They've never fed themselves. They've never had to show up to class by themselves on time. They've never had to study for a final exam, any of those things, but we're throwing kids into college where they have to decide some major life things. What's your major going to be? What are you studying, right? What are you going to do for the rest of your life? And as Mr. Horton was saying, these kids don't know. They've never even experienced anything in that major, but they just think, right? And so Christy brought up the good point of how many times do people start jumping majors, right? Well, I think I want to do communications, and they start learning about it and they're like, oh, yuck, right? And then, I think I'll do business management. Oh, nope, I don't like that. And so they waste a lot of time. So by doing Freedom Day, you're able to knock a lot of that stuff out, because what we do is we look at that model when the kids are 18 and we build backwards. So if your child is 10 now, we've got those 8 years to prepare them for that level. So again, what skills do you want them to have when you release them off into the world on their own, right? Do you want them to know how to manage money? So what are you doing now to teach them that? Do you want them to be able to manage time? What are you doing now to help them with that, right? So you just ask those questions and start creating the path. And that was the main thing that Mr. Horton was talking about, was all too often, parents across the planet are guilty of not preparing, but so they're just reacting, saying, well, good luck. I hope I did a good job, right? Hope isn't a good thing for kids. We want to develop that plan and that process. So by building it in place, we can guide them to the end result that we want, right? So we can do a lot of exercises on Freedom Day. There's a whole script. There's a whole series of questions that we can ask. If that's something you're interested in, you can reach out to me, send me a message, and I will find those questions and get them to you. It's a really great exercise, and it's really exciting to be proactive in your child's development rather than rolling the dice and seeing what happens, right? So those are the main things that I had on my list for today. And so Mr. Chandler was asking, is this only for parents? So yes, your kids are welcome to listen, but pretty much the topics are going to be parent oriented unless you guys have specific questions. For example, we learned why every single mastery student is able to tie their own belts. Guess what we're starting? Right? So I will be talking about that and showing it to the kids in class. So at that point, what they do is the kids start class with their hands in their belt. And then when we line up, it's like, okay, take a knee, tie your belt, go. Right? So this forces the kids to develop that habit. So within the next month or two, guess what? All the kids are going to be able to tie their own belts. Right? So we're going to be able to continue to put little things in that place to help make the kids be successful and develop from there. Now, this is for the kids in the teens program. Little dragons aren't quite ready for that responsibility, so we're going to continue to help them. But parents are doing great with them by, I'm seeing some of our purple belts, green belts and purple belts. The parents are watching them do the belts and are just guiding or helping instead of doing that for them, right? So that's that point. Great. So, Stephanie, that's a great question. What age group is Freedom Day for? That would be from birth. So, right. So you can create Freedom Day. The goal again is when your child is 18 years old, what do you want them to have? However old your child is, you can work backwards. So I know the kids are in her case, 6, 5, and 6. So at that point, that's what we'd work on. All right. Isabel's about to turn 7. So all right. So we start from 7 and build from there. If you have a teenager, all right, we start at 12 and build. But we could even start, right? Olivia's 3, right? You sent me that awesome video. So you could start with her. What things do we want in place? And naturally, you're going to have to make them age specific and appropriate, but there's nothing wrong with putting those into layers as we go. So I'd be happy to spend some time in breaking that out for you guys. So other than that, I wanted to bring Christy on because if you watched in the group, I did a couple of Facebook Lives just to it's one thing to hear us talk about what happens when I go to Rhode Island and how great it is, right? It's another thing to see it. So that's why I did a couple live videos. There were, I don't know, 80, 90 people in class at that point, and being able to see all of them be absolutely awesome and fantastic is a great thing. So that's why I wanted to do the Facebook Lives. But even at that point, being there, right? So it's kind of like watching a concert on TV versus being there. It's exactly the same. So Christy, I've asked you to unmute. What was your fun takeaways from Rhode Island?
The concert analogy is perfect because it was the intensity, the positive energy. It was unbelievable being there. We've talked about it many times, and you're always so excited, and it sounds great, but to actually be there I had goosebumps all weekend, just watching how the instructors are with the kids, watching how the kids handle themselves. You've said before, there's not an awkward kid there. Even the kids that I was looking around, and you can tell who is the typical popular kid, or who, the kid who's maybe really skinny with glasses and just looks like he would be awkward. They weren't. They speak so confidently, and they all interact with each other. There was nobody left sitting by themselves. It really was fascinating to watch, and just so positive. And they all knew what to do, and it was just, I wish everybody could have been there.
Yeah. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Christy, I believe you have Ozzy butt going on there. Is that correct?
Yes, that's Ozzy.
So Ozzy is one of wonderful dogs that loves to put his tail in our faces whenever we're sitting. So there he is.
Yes.
So yes, one of the key phrases that Mr. Horton talks about all the time is, at his program, it's called Mastery Martial Arts. So you'll hear me referencing Mr. Horton, Mastery Martial Arts. He said that Mastery Martial Arts doesn't have an awkward teenager because they train the awkwardness out of the teenagers. And again, the mindset is the kids, they have multiple programs like Little Dragons. They even have a Tiny Tigers for 3 and 4 year olds. So those are the developmental programs. The martial arts program is the kids program like ours that starts at 7. So by the time the kids are about 10 and a half is when they earn their black belt. So that therefore they're prepared for teenage years, right? So he talked about, imagine giving your child a shield, because once we hit that 13, you're about to send them off into those most awkward years and those tough years with social aspects and influences. What do you want them to pick up? What do you want them to learn and develop? Again, like I mentioned earlier, our influence as parents is going down. Their influence from their friends and other social media is going up. So if we can build that shield around them by the time they're 10 and a half, 11 years old, those teenage years are going to be a whole lot easier than just randomly thinking and hoping, right? Fingers crossed. I hope they turn out okay is not a method for success. All right. So again, if you have any other questions, you can type them in the chat. So Christy, what are some questions about the program that you hear all the time?
One of them is, how long does it take my kid to get black belt?
Hey, we can solve that. So in the Facebook group, and I believe it's in the app, I'll double check after this call. If it's not, I will make sure it's there, is your black belt journey. And it's a picture of Ryu with all of the belts. I heard you, Ozzy. I got that. So what we do is underneath each of the belts is a blank space for you to write in the date. So by writing in the date, either that's the time your child got that belt or that's their projected time. And we've talked about it a couple times in class. Belts are every 2 months with the exception of the 2 candidate belts. Candidate belts are the red black belts just before apprentice black belt. And then again, just before certified black belt. Those are 6-month belts. But at that point, it just becomes simple math. And so for the last 2 weeks, I've been asking the kids to get that number for their goal setting. Every time you come to class, I want you to know what date are you training for, right? So even if it's 2027, it seems like a long ways away, but it's really not, right? So definitely looking at that, getting that downloaded. It's pinned in the Facebook group. I can send it to you. Again, if you send me a quick message, I can send you the file directly or the link to it's in our Google Drive and or it will be in the app. So a great thing to do is to print that out and go over that with your child. Does that answer that for you, Christy?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Anything else you can think of before we let our parents enjoy the rest of their Sunday evening?
One of the other big ones is for parents that are, or students that aren't in leadership. The parents are asking, well, what's the difference? If it's only 15 minutes, what's the difference?
A world of difference.
Yes.
But we get it, right? It doesn't, the magic of leadership is so fantastic that you don't even really see it because you don't know exactly the pieces. So that's a great question. Basically what we talk about is the martial arts program is 30 minutes of physical activity with a general understanding or introduction to what the life skills are. So we talk about communication is the link between the world and me. The kids hear that as a general life skill, and then we give them small little doses. For example, this week we're going to talk about dressing for success. So they're going to hear little tidbits. The leadership takes those life skills in the next 15 minutes and it develops confident communicators, right, who are able to do public speaking and lead a group of any size and any project on any topic that they're good at. So it's preparing them to become great leaders in the world. And that's basically what we call the mental or emotional side of the martial arts. And then the third layer, which we haven't introduced yet that I've been working on, is called Dojo Genius. And well, I have introduced it. Those are the 1, 2, 3 patterns that I brought into class this past couple of weeks. There's actually a whole separate program to train your child's brain on how to do it 10 times faster than what we're doing in class. But yes, so if anybody's not in leadership and is interested, reach out. Again, that'd be a great face-to-face conversation to answer any specific questions you have about it. While yes, it is only 15 minutes, it's the most powerful 15 minutes your kids will ever have. Another difference would be the martial arts program is up to 2 times per week. Leadership is up to 3 times. So it does give them an extra day of training, and it does give them that extra 15 minutes. And then we do have a super session once per month to where we spend a good 45 minutes to an hour working on some cool things. So another way to look at it too is we're working on, for example, communication this cycle, teaching the kids how verbal communication works versus nonverbal. We're teaching the kids nonverbal communication and how to practice it, which is something that we don't do in the martial arts. Voila. Anything else?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
All right. So we'll give it 1 or 2 more quick seconds for our other parents. If you guys do have any questions that came up, again, they can be about process. We talked about structure, right? The 4 elements of our program: structure, emotion, knowledge, and legacy. Those are the 4 points that we have up on the wall. They are up there specifically for that reason. And we teach things in that method. So you will be, our newer students will be surprised. Our older ones, maybe not. Anytime I come back from Rhode Island, I've got a whole host of new drills and things to do. So the class this week is going to be super turbocharged because, as Christy said, right, just being in the environment is exciting and energizing for us. And I look at, oh, I wasn't doing that. Oh, there's something. Oh, I was doing that, but differently. Right. So I did get some more core exercises for our kids class. Promised you, right? Only 85. Yeah, now there's 90. So definitely some fun things to go. But I do not see any other questions coming through. So appreciate you parents that did make it. Anybody else watching the replay, you can always type a question underneath the video here, and then we can put it on for the next week and make sure we answer those. Or you can let Christy or myself know. Tell us when you're at the school, hey, I was wondering about this, and we'll put it in on a question, or we can address it from that point. So hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Christy and I are going to go get some sleep. So it is about our bedtime being up so early today, but it was definitely exciting and a fantastic trip. And I look forward to seeing everybody this week in class. Have a great evening, everybody.